Born into a show business family, Emmy Award-winning actress and producer Christina Applegate began her career in various commercials, films, and television series before landing the breakout part of ditzy bombshell Kelly Bundy in the hit comedy Married with Children. The 11-year role catapulted Christina into superstardom, and more recently, she's found success on both big and small screens. Christina and her husband, Martine Lenoble, are parents to 2-year-old Sadie and live in Hollywood, California.
I was born here in Los Angeles, and I grew up in Laurel Canyon. My mom and dad separated when I was about 5 months old, and he moved up to Big Sur, so I grew up with my mom. My dad and mother split up when I was so young. I didn't get to spend the kind of time with him that I think either he or I would have liked to have spent. But since I've had Sadie, he's spent a lot more time down here, which has been really nice. You know, we're bonded because of blood, but we're also bonded because I'm part of him and part of his personality. I know my grandfather's first name. His name is Paul Applegate. Now, my grandmother, I never met. We know she died young, and my father never knew her. I want to know why my grandmother couldn't take care of him. Not just because of her age. There has to be another reason. He's heard rumors of how she died, and it's pretty awful, but I want to know if it's true. A couple years ago, my sister was able to locate my father's birth certificate. She was able to get it through records in New Jersey. And on that, we learned his mother's name, Lavina. Before that, my father did not know his mother's name if you asked him. I think I want to go on this journey because I've watched my father be in a lot of pain of not knowing who he is and having to make up stories in his mind in order to cope with whatever memories he's pushing back. I don't know if it's great to live a life that long with not knowing who you are. Today, my father is driving down from up north in Northern California. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Pumpkin, how are you?
Good. So that we can sort of discuss what he remembers, so I can move forward and open up this book and close this book for him. So, all we have is this.
Yeah. Believe it or not, this is my birth certificate.
Aha. New Jersey Department of Health Bureau of Vital Statistics. Wow. So it says here that you were born November 10th, 1942.
I know, and that
which
amazes
would
me.
Make you 71.
Yeah, something like that, 70, 71. But here's the confusion. I always thought I was older, and let me tell you why. I'll tell you a little story.
Wait, no, it would make you 70.
70.
Oh my God, of course, because I was born, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, math has never been one of our great subjects.
Not. Okay, so Lavina Shaw was your mother, and Paul Applegate, which we knew.
Yeah.
Is the mother married to the father? Yes.
Okay.
And the address is 522 Market Street, Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay, so birthplace, hers was New Jersey and his was New Jersey. So both of them were both born in New Jersey. Paul Applegate, we don't know where he came from. His parents.
Well, his mother is the one that raised me.
I thought it was her mother. It was his mother.
My mother's mother? Oh, no, it was his mother. And then when my grandmother got to the point where she got a little senile and older, that's when I finally went up to live with my dad. And I think I was 14. You know, him and I never really talked about too much, you know.
And now what about Lavina?
And she died young.
Yeah. When did you find that out? Because that I don't remember ever hearing.
Yeah, my grandmother, very nonchalantly at the breakfast table, said, "Oh, by the way, your mother died."
And so she would have been like, what, how old do you think? Because you would have been how old?
When she passed away?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume I was like 7, 8 years old, so she had to be like 28, 29 years old, maybe. Wow. I'm not sure.
I mean, what?
This is some of the stuff I'm so interested in finding out.
What happened to her?
Yeah.
Why?
You know, my grandmother told me a story that I don't know why you would ever tell a child something like this, but she told me that she was found outside a bar, dead, beaten to death. Yeah, I don't want to think my mother was, died like that.
Well, let's hope that that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's heavy. Oh, Dad, this is crazy.
Well,
This is gonna be crazy.
I know it is. After all these years,
I
I
know.
finally get the chance to
I
find out
know.
who I am,
And you
who
were-
we are.
But now that I know that my grandmother's name was Lavina Shaw and that my grandparents lived in New Jersey, I am headed to Trenton, New Jersey. I am hoping to find why my grandparents, Paul and Lavina, made the decision to have my father live with his grandmother. Or did they make that decision? Was it a state decision? Why couldn't they take care of him? These are questions that I think my dad is fuzzy on, and I really want to know. So now I'm meeting with genealogist Joseph Shumway at the Office of Vital Statistics. I'm hoping he can advise me on researching Lavina and her family. To get us started, Joseph asked the state registrar to search for my grandparents' marriage certificate. So while we wait, Joseph wants to see what kind of clues my dad's birth certificate holds. Here we have my father's name, Robert William Applegate, born to Paul Applegate and Lavina Shaw.
And it does say the parents are married. And she was
21.
21 at the time.
Which I guess back then wasn't that young to be
No,
married.
it was not. No, it was
These
pretty
days,
typical age.
No,
Exactly.
you wait till you're 40.
Right. And the marriage record should give us very helpful information. Clues about Lavina before she married.
And her parents, too,
Right.
and all of that. Hi.
Hi, we found something for you.
Great.
And we're in luck, we found your grandparents'
Oh.
marriage certificate.
Christina Applegate is in Trenton, New Jersey, researching the mysterious past of her grandmother, Lavina Shaw. She just found her grandparents' marriage certificate, which Christina hopes contains some clues about her lineage.
All right, the full name was Paul Scholar Applegate and Lavina Victorine Shaw. What an awesome
Yeah, isn't
name.
that an interesting,
Lavina
unique name?
Victorine. I love it. And Scholar or Schaller.
And the other thing that
So-
it does give us here, which is very important, is her birth date.
Yeah, that's right, October
October
9th,
9th.
1921. And she was 19.
Mm-hmm.
And they married Trenton, New Jersey in June of 41. Okay. My grandmother's parents' name is Ovid. Is that what it says? Ovid Shaw?
Ovid Shaw.
And Lavina Weaver?
Right.
Interesting. Those are names I've never heard before. I love getting these little details like my great-grandfather's name, Ovid Shaw, and that my grandmother, Lavina Shaw, was named after her mother, Lavina Weaver. These clues, they're incredible, but they leave me with bigger questions, like when and how did my grandparents become estranged? The residence, at least of my grandfather, I guess, was I can't read what that says.
Yeah, the
271 East Front Street, Trenton, New Jersey, and she was 522 Market Street.
So they weren't living together
When they
prior
got
to
married,
that.
but you wouldn't back then.
Right.
Right?
But it
it's
is
actually-
interesting that she is living at 522 Market Street, which is the same address where she was living when your dad was born. So that is a
Okay.
bit of a...
So maybe she
mystery.
was living on her own, because I don't think they were after my father was born, and I don't think Lavina and Paul were together. So that's where I would have to find like a divorce certificate kind of thing to find out where we go from there.
Right. What we can do is divide and conquer, where I can search to see if there was a divorce record. And so I will work on that to see if we can find information about Lavina after the marriage. What you can do is, with the new clues that we have here, it would be helpful to find out more information about Lavina before she married, because if we learn more about a person's earlier life, we can gather clues that maybe help us understand their choices better. And I would suggest making the next stop the Trenton Public Library, which is a great resource for local Trenton history.
See what we got. So thank you so much.
bet.
So the marriage certificate was a great wealth of information just to know my grandmother's parents' names, but it doesn't explain the question, which is what happened to Lavina? Where did she disappear to? Why was she not in my father's life? So while Joseph is searching for court documents about my grandparents after 1941 when they married, He's sending me to see Kimberly Matthews, who's the director of the Trenton Free Public Library, so I can begin to investigate Lavina's early life. Even though it's a total long shot, Kimberly suggests that we try to find a mention of my grandmother in the local papers, so we're starting with the Trenton Evening Times.
Since we're looking for that time period, you know, maybe a little bit before your grandmother was born, let's go ahead and put in, let's say 1918 to 1941.
All right. There we go. An engagement notice. 1919. Okay.
So there we have your great-grandparents.
Wow. Oh. That's so beautiful to see that. Wow, that's Ovid. What a handsome guy.
Yeah?
He looks like my dad. Looks a lot like my dad. And look at you, Lavina. My great-grandmother. All right, amazing. Wow. All right, what's this about? 1934. Uh-oh. Lavina and Delilah Shaw. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so my grandmother, Lavina, she had a sister named Delilah.
Looks like.
Okay. That's my family, that's my dad's mouth. It's so awesome. Just to see it all, the threads. It's incredible. Society, business sessions, card parties, and benefit affairs. All right, daughters of Mr. and Mrs. Ovid Shaw of Ward Avenue. Wait, so is that a pretty nice neighborhood at that time? Or
This was actually a quite lovely neighborhood. A little more comfortable, a little more affluent.
Interesting. Who have returned from an extended visit with relatives and friends in Elizabeth. During their visit, they made an automobile tour of parts of New York and Pennsylvania as the guests of Mr. and Mrs. Lewis Leonard. So they were pretty well off for that time. I mean,
well, the lovely neighborhood, and the trip seems to imply that.
yeah.
Well,
What happened from this well-to-do family and to not take care of my dad? So now I want to know what area Market Street was in. So where do we go from here?
I think one of the next places we could go, since this is 1934, why don't we check the 1940 census and see what was happening with them in 1940?
Okay.
Okay. Why don't we take a look on Ancestry.com?
What a trip.
All right.
Lavina.
Shaw.
Birth year, 1920. 21.
Trenton.
And then that's it?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so there's the Shaw family. This is when they lived on Market Street. Okay, so Market Street was her parents' house. My grandmother was 18.
Also, here's an interesting column, which is weeks out of work. And so she's... now, if we glance up, your great-grandfather
Was out of work for 12 weeks. Wow. So
it sounds like maybe things are becoming a little more difficult.
not, okay.
So let's talk about this column right here.
Okay.
These are the last grades attended.
Okay, so 8th grade for my grandmother.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. After 8th grade, she was out of school.
Right.
Wonder
Now,
why.
in an urban setting, it was actually more the average that they would go to about the 11th and a half grade. But by the time you've hit into the 40s now, the Depression has been here. Everyone is struggling. So not getting past the 8th grade, that was common to some degree for families that were struggling. As soon as the children became able to bring in another income into the household, they would have wanted them to do that.
But now at this point, nobody's bringing anything into the household.
Doesn't appear so.
That makes me sad. So it wasn't what, you know, looking at this family, thinking of Lavina living in this sort of well-to-do family, this was not what she was a part of, which explains a lot. What happened to you, Lavina? Where did you go? Where did she drop out? What I find really interesting is that Lavina remained at this address, 522 Market Street. She was there when she got married to my grandfather. She was there when she had my father. Paul and Lavina, from what it seems, never actually lived together. So what happened there? This is the big mystery. Why were these two people not together? Why did they not have their child? I really hope to find that out.
Christina Applegate is in New Jersey, investigating her grandmother Lavina's unexplained past.
I'm very excited, but I'm a little nervous because I heard from Joseph Shumway, the genealogist I met earlier, and he found a large number of court documents related to my grandparents' marriage. So now I'm heading to the New Jersey State Library to meet with family law professor Meredith Schalick. I'm really hoping she can help me decipher the information in these court records.
Okay, so the first document we're going to start with is actually a complaint that was filed by your grandmother.
By my grandmother?
By your grandmother. So she filed a complaint in 1942.
Okay.
After they had separated.
October
of 1942.
Okay. My father was born in November 1942, so my grandparents. They separated.
They separated before,
right before he was born.
So this complaint is actually her attempt to enforce the separation agreement that they created when they first separated.
Wait a minute, when did they first separate?
Well, do you want to take a look?
The complaint, Lavina v. S. Applegate, says that following the said marriage, she and the defendant resided in the said city of Trenton, New Jersey until or around the 10th day of August. Wow, oh really? Okay.
So for a couple of months.
And then they separated. So the defendant, after his marriage to complainant, okay, wait. Began to treat her cruelly and brutally, accusing her of immoral acts, charging her that she was guilty of adultery, by reference calling her vile and indecent name. Oh, God, Grandpa. And on various dates struck and beat her. On account of which she left him on or about the 10th day of August. Okay. In October 1941, defendant left the city of Trenton and took up his residence in Wilmington, Delaware.
Yes.
So my grandpa left. Okay, so, but subsequently, on or about the 10th day of January 1942, Lavina returned to him in Delaware. Okay.
And I think it's important to say that she went back to him upon his promise to treat her properly.
Upon his promise. Notwithstanding his promise, the defendant did not treat her properly, but resumed and continued his cruel, brutal, and abusive treatment of her, and did, on or about the 13th day of May, pack most of complainant's clothes and personal effects and tell her to get back to Trenton. So he kicked her out. On the following day, defendant called for complainant and took her to the office of an attorney in Wilmington, where an agreement was drawn and signed by both of them. Complainant did on the 14th day of May, 1942, in consequence of the cruel and abusive treatment, leave him, and has ever since lived apart. Under the terms and provisions thereof, defendant covenanted to pay complainant the sum of $15 per week, so he then started giving her money.
Well, he was supposed to.
He had to, okay, so he was supposed to give her $15 a week.
That's right.
Defendant has not made any of the weekly payments.
Right.
He didn't pay for anything.
At least according to what she's saying.
All is just like, it's making so much sense now. Like, she probably had my father, and she can't take care of him because she's 21 years old. She can't get work. Of course, my dad has to be raised by his grandmother. All right, let's see what happens here.
Okay, so what we don't have a copy of, but what I know from reading these documents is back in the beginning of 1945, they divorced. At that time, the judge awarded custody to your grandmother. And Paul filed with the court asking for custody of your father in June of 1945. So this is what we have is the most complete statement from Paul about what's going on and why he thinks he should have custody.
Okay, all right. In answer to my former wife's petition for alimony and counsel fees, I say that I have read her petition and affidavit, and the contents thereof are not true. Particularly, it is not true that my former wife is without means of support except from her exertions. Okay, so he's saying she is making money, she has a job.
I shouldn't have to pay her alimony.
I shouldn't have to pay it, okay.
Okay, okay.
So next, my grandfather Paul claims that even though he and my grandmother Lavina separated in May of 1942, he repeatedly asked her to reconsider, but she said no. On January 10th, 1943, I learned that my wife had moved in with Michael Constant. So now he's saying that she's now living with this guy and my dad.
Yes.
They were arraigned on the charges of adultery.
Because at that time, adultery was against the law.
Okay, so he had them arrested.
Yes.
This is not even, is this like a joke? This is insane.
Christina Applegate is examining court documents related to her grandparents' intense custody battle over her father, Bob. She is about to find out what happened next in the case, according to her grandfather's affidavit.
She, at that time, made a statement that she thought she would be happier if I would grant her a divorce. So my grandfather goes on to say that although he agreed to divorce, he was still very much in love with my grandmother and hoped to reconcile. Paul claims that one night, Lavina asked him to pick up their son and take him to her apartment while she was out. So Paul says he waited for her there until early morning, at which time Lavina allegedly came home in a drunken stupor and they ended up having sex. So clearly, they were still having relations, according to my grandfather. But it also looks like Lavina was still involved with this Michael Constant. My God, this is just nuts. All this time, the divorce was pending. Finally, the hearing came on after I refused to support her. She accepted the money from me, the support for my son. So child support, no alimony. All right.
So these are the exhibits that attach to it. And then this is the doctor note.
Okay, to whom it may concern, this is to certify that I treated Robert William Applegate for pneumonia. It was also my opinion that he was suffering from malnutrition. Malnutrition. I'm just angry at these two people. I'm so angry at them.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's see what's going on with her.
So this is Lavina's side.
This is Lavina's side to the whole thing.
That's right.
June of 1945. So Lavina refutes Paul's accusations, claiming that she never did live with Michael Constant. Then she alleges that my grandfather was always drunk and threatening, and that he never contributed to their baby's welfare. She asserts that she was a good mother, that she's never been in a drunken stupor, and that in my dad's 2.5 years of life, the bout of pneumonia was the only time he was seriously ill. Okay, but the doctor also said he had malnutrition, and she's saying that she always cared for okay. I never left the baby alone, and when for any reason I was obliged to go out, I placed him in the care of my mother or Mrs. Ann Graham, who occupies the apartment above. Okay.
She included statements from Ann Graham. This is her neighbor and landlord.
This is all?
Right, sort of background about who she is.
She's a good tenant. She's never had any disturbances. She's always paid her rent. There's never been any man in her apartment that stood there overnight. In fact, I've never seen any other man there except for Paul Applegate. I know that Mrs. Applegate idolizes her baby and that she practically lives for him. The baby has a sweet disposition and is healthy as babies come. What's interesting to me, though, is in her rebuttal, she never makes mention of the abuse anymore. Wouldn't you think that if you were trying to win a custody battle, that you would say, this guy is an abusive, beat me to a pulp alcoholic? That's interesting, because if it was me, I would, you know what I mean? Let's skip on.
Okay, this is the last court document we were able to find, okay?
All right.
So this is
the final order.
Final order from
This is
June.
June 1945. After reviewing both sides, this is what now the judge has come to an agreement
That's
about.
right. So just
of what's going to happen to my father.
That's right. So just before we go on to sort of what the judge ordered, just a little bit of context. At this point in the United States, when children were young, the courts almost automatically always gave custody to the mother. So, but the only way that Paul could get custody was to prove Lavina unfit.
Interesting. Okay. After duly considering the petitions, it appears that the defendant has failed to show by a preponderance of evidence that the petitioner is unfit and unqualified to retain custody of the infant child, and that his welfare is best served by remaining in the custody of the mother. He's going to continue to live with his mother. He said he never knew his mother, and yet he lived with her for all of these years. Okay.
Well, at least
until this was signed.
He's about 2.5.
Because maybe she is completely unfit, and they have to take him away from her. Okay.
Unfortunately, this is the last court order that we were able to find.
But I want to know how he ends up at his grandmother's.
I would love to be able to tell you right now, here's a court order from 1947, and this is what happened, but unfortunately, we don't have that. And there could be lots of reasons why there aren't any other court orders. You know, they could be lost, it could have been a private arrangement. The other thing is that Lavina may have passed away, and that could be why custody was changing at that point.
That's what happened.
So do you know when your grandmother passed away?
Okay, my dad said he was probably around 8.
So I think that we can go next door to the state archives, and I think we might be able to find out when your grandmother passed away if there's a death certificate.
Okay.
All right, so
let's do
how
it.
about we go next door?
I think I knew coming in that there was something that was going to be relatively undesirable, but I don't think that prepared me at all for what I found out. It's hard to really be attached to one side of the story or the other side of the story. And I don't want to think ill thoughts about either of these people, but, you know, I do. And it's sad because those are my grandparents.
Christina Applegate just learned that her grandmother retained custody of Christina's father after a contentious battle. Eager to provide closure for her dad, Christina now hopes to finally find the truth behind her grandmother Lavina's uncertain death.
To give us a jump start, Meredith called ahead to Joe Klett, who's an archivist at the New Jersey State Archives. She asked him to see if he can find a death certificate for my grandmother, but since she may have remarried, we asked Joe to look for a Lavina Applegate, Shaw, or Constant. My dad says he was about 8 when he was told Lavina died, so Joe's looking for death certificates from around 1950. Okay.
We were able to find a Lavina Shaw. I don't know if that's the right certificate. We didn't find anything under the other names.
This is it. This is her because this is 522 Market Street.
522 Market Street. So date of death, February 18th, 1946. Okay. But
wait a minute, what?
So,
oh, this is her mother. Yeah, because there's Jacob Weaver.
Oh, yep.
She's a Weaver.
Okay.
So this is all we got.
Well, it did say that she died in 1946. So that was soon after the custody battle.
Right.
And I'm remembering Lavina said that her mother used to watch Bob for her a lot while she was working. So maybe now her mother has passed away. In addition to one of the child care providers for her son.
Okay. And that could be when my dad went to live with his paternal grandmother.
Maybe.
All right. What does this mean for me here?
Maybe we should look online to see if we can find maybe any newspaper articles or something, you know, involving her name and see, you know, maybe we can hit something there.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Why don't we do newspaper archives for New Jersey? I think maybe we should search by just her first name because her first name is so unusual. Yeah. Okay. And then let's see. Let's do died.
1955.
So let's click on that and see if that first one gives us anything.
No. Walton.
Lavina Walton.
Oh my God. Mrs. Lavina V. Walton, age 33. Died at her home yesterday after a brief illness. She was the wife of Charles Walton. In addition to her husband, she was survived by son Robert Applegate. There's no, can't find a death. Oh, Lavina Walton.
Well, now we have a last name.
Okay, now we have a different last name
to search under.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's see if we can find Joda.
aged 33. She was
Did you
married
find some
to...
new information?
Yes, we did. We want to look under a Lavina Walton,
Walton. And what's the date of death?
1955, April 1st.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can find.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanhanks, Joe. So does 55 match up with about when your dad has a memory of? No.
55, my dad would have been 13.
13.
But he says he lived with his grandmother the whole time before that. So his mother dies when he was around 13, and I know he went to go live with his father when he was 14. Was he, like, still living with her? Or... But no, he swears up and down it was his grandmother.
He's with his
So it's
grandmother
and his aunts.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, maybe this will open something up for him.
Maybe.
I think we found your certificate.
Oh my goodness, okay. Oh my God. Lavina Walton died March 30th, I guess, 1955.
Okay.
She died of pulmonary tuberculosis with effusion and cirrhosis of the liver due to chronic alcoholism. So, it's possible everything that my grandfather was saying was true. Okay, she was buried. Okay.
And it
At
says
Riverview
Cemetery in Trenton.
New Jersey. So she's here.
Yeah. Less than a mile away from here.
All right. Just gotta go check her out, huh? Ay, ay, ay.
Well, I know it wasn't all the answers that you wanted, but I
No.
think it gave you,
I know that we can't find the whys,
unfortunately.
but at least, you know, my father can know that her death wasn't something, you know, brutal, and that she just died of a disease. She died of a really bad disease. All right, thank you so much.
Well, it was really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. It's a sad story of a woman who had to be sacrificed because of this disease. It can destroy many families, and consequently, lines of people after that. And, you know, my father has lived his life thinking that it was something really horrible that happened to Lavina. So it's really unfortunate. It's very possible that when my great-grandmother passed away, my grandmother had to give him up because she couldn't take care of him. I mean, that's what I feel like happened, but I will never know. But it's been worth it for me to see who these people are, and really, at the end of the day, for me, the lesson of who my father is, you know, and to have a deeper understanding and a deeper love for my dad. That's why I'm here.
Christina Applegate has finally uncovered the mystery surrounding her grandmother's disappearance and is hoping to finally give her father, Bob, some peace.
I have asked my father to come here to Trenton so I can sit down with him and share with him the information. I know some of the story is going to be really difficult for him to hear.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Here we go.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go, huh?
Yep. All right, let me preface this by saying that I have received a lot of information, but I think that everything that I've abridged it down to here is gonna kind of help you understand, I think, who your mother was.
Okay.
The first stuff that I found is they put a picture in the paper. So this would have made your mother about 14. And there's your mom. There's your mom. I know. You know, we're not unique. This Applegate family, we're just one of the darker ones, you know? But what we all want to do is move forward, you know? Keep growing and changing and becoming better. June 7th of 1941, your parents were married. I mean, I hope that over time that he can heal from this and we right the wrongs. And the good in this scenario is the word forgiveness. I hope that he's found some forgiveness to his mother. Your mother passed away in 1955. She was 33 years old.
Wow. This is an awful lot.
You were 13 years old.
13?
You were 13.
I thought I was younger.
Pulmonary tuberculosis and cirrhosis of the liver from chronic alcoholism.
Oh, God. My mother was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected, obviously. Is there any good in here anywhere?
Yeah. You want me to tell you what the good is?
I like to have a moment
right.
of happiness, yeah.
Here's the good, Dad. The beauty of this is that you can be incredibly proud that you broke the pattern and that you raised all of us
Yeah.
with giving us strength and intelligence and talent and fight in us. And you did that with no help from anyone, Dad.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
That's how I feel at the end of this whole thing. This is the good part of the story.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Daddy.
Wow.
I hope that he has pride because he was given nothing to work with. But there's so much light that's happening now. There's so much goodness, and I hope he can take that with him, you know? So my dad and I are heading out to Riverview Cemetery, and I'm just hoping we can have some closure for my father that he's been looking for his whole life.
All right, here's Lavina Shaw Walton, right?
Okay.
These are our burial cards, so we have those on each of the individuals, and then based on this, we can go to the lot card. This is the lot number is 171, which is here. Now, there's no monument there. It would be shown on this, so you're going to have to
Kind of look around on the ground, right? Okay.
And on this card, you can find out who's been buried here.
Oh my God. Okay.
What's that?
They bought a plot for you.
My mother brought a plot for me.
Yeah. She wanted you to be buried with her.
Oh, God, I wish I would have known her.
No.
Not even ever knowing her. She cared for me. She loved me.
Daddy.
Yeah. Okay, Mom. What can I say?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go find this. Let's go this way.
Down here?
Yeah, 171 is the one that we want
171.
to see. Right here?
Oh, God. Huh. I'm gonna get you a monument, Mom. I promise you.
As dark as it is, there will be on the other side of this a man who's 70 years old who knows who he is and he knows where he came from. And I really, really hope with all my heart that at the end of the process, he really sees what a miracle he is. I'm gonna take these out.
Yeah.